So hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar about generation equality and youth leadership of the Action Coalitions. My name is Georgia Booth. I work at Plan International, and we're here today very kindly hosted by our partners at Girls Not Brides. As you'll see, we're on their live YouTube channel. And we're really excited to have you here for this webinar, the first of its kind. Just before we get started, a little reminder on safety and security. Some of you are joining over Zoom. You will have registered in advance. We're also sharing this on YouTube. The Zoom call is closed, so only those who've registered should be joining. And we have a safeguarding person monitoring the chat as well. If anyone does contact you one-to-one and you're not comfortable, you can let Eugenia Lopez know. Or Nikita, and they can advise you and help. On the YouTube channel, and there's Eugenia now. On the YouTube channel, we also have people monitoring the comments box. The chat box in Zoom and the comments in YouTube are the two ways that you will be able to ask questions during this webinar. So please go ahead and use them. We'll make sure that we create the space to answer them. We're going to have some short presentations about why we're here, who we are, what the opportunity is, and what the process is that this generation equality process we're talking about. And then we'll have time at the end for questions and answers. So you can write as you go, or you can save them up until the end. So move on to the next slide. So who are we? This, and who's organizing this? We are Plan International and Girls Not Brides, along with a number of other different organizations and funds and agencies, are part of this group called the Adolescent Girls Investment Plan Group. And we, as you can see on the screen, convene some of the girl and youth focused organizations for whom generation equality is a real priority. And what is generation equality? It's a process that's being run by UN Women. It's sometimes known as the Beijing Plus 25 process. And why is that? 25 years ago, a number of world leaders and decision makers and civil society organizations came together and made a plan of action and made commitments to meet these. Generation equality is an opportunity to look back at that and build momentum and commitment with girls and young women to help shape the feminist future we want to see during this anniversary, 25th anniversary of this platform of action. We know that girls and young women and young people more broadly are leading the way to be bolder and more proactive in the fight for gender equality and climate justice and racial justice. And their power has grown from local communities to the international space. But they're still fighting to have a seat at the table, a legitimate seat as a stakeholder in decision-making processes. And generation equality is one of these processes, and we want to make sure that girls and young people have a seat at the table and are part of the decision-making. So the Adolescent Girls Investment Plan Group is a group of organizations that's trying to influence this and engage in this process. So there are a few things that we do. We provide technical expertise on adolescent girls' actions. You'll learn a bit more about this. So with a focus on girls and young people, we are advocating for the safe and meaningful participation of girls and young people in this process, from its design to how it's implemented and how it's monitored, in coordination with the leaders of these action coalitions, which we'll talk about soon. We are also doing some collective advocacy for holistic action and evidence-based investments for girls. And lastly, we're promoting accountability for any girl-focused actions or commitments within generation equality. And you can see at the bottom, I won't read them all out, some of the other organizations we're working with. So it's a really amazing group, all with this shared commitment together. And it's not just us. We're really fortunate to be able to work in collaboration with and with the Beijing Plus 25 Youth Task Force throughout this process. And so I'm going to hand over now to Chamatya, a colleague and friend, to tell us a little bit more about this task force and what they do in this process. Chamatya, over to you.
Thanks, Georgia. Hi, everyone, and welcome you all to the webinar. And I'm Chamatya Fernando from Sri Lanka, and I'm also part of the Beijing Plus 25 Youth Task Force, but I also represent the World Association of Girl Guides and Girl Scouts. To speak a little bit about how the Youth Task Force came about, it was set up by the UN Women to facilitate and engage more young people in the process of reviewing Beijing Plus 25, even though we did have plans for this year for Generation Equality Forums and for CSW, but everything was postponed for obvious reasons, as we know, because of the COVID-19. But we were a team of 30 young people between the ages of 18 to 30 years, and we have been involved in youth consultations in the process of getting input from young people around the world, in all parts of the world, in all regions, representing different constituencies. And we've been collecting their input on what and how they want the new global campaign, the Generation Equality, needs to be framed, and what the issues that they need to focus on. And we also have been, during this period of time, have been involved in
Chamatya, I think you've muted yourself.
Yes, we have been conducting the youth consultations and collecting all the data from all young people around the world on how they want the Generation Equality campaign framed, and what the issues that they want to raise as young people. And just to give a little bit about how we plan to work in the future, is that we are involved in all levels, in all levels of the campaign, but also in structuring the action coalitions, and also making sure that adolescents and young people are at the center of the whole process. Like what Georgia said, not just us, but I think so many civil society organizations together have been advocating for this. And we would really like to see, and why I believe this webinar is also going to support us, is to have the action coalition leadership with some youth-led organizations. So I believe that this webinar would kind of facilitate and support your applications to take up that role. So we, as the Youth Task Force, want to make sure that as many young people are involved in the whole process. So I hope that this will be a platform that you all can, clarify your doubts, questions, and all of that, and we could be of some help. Yeah, thank you. Over to you, Georgia.
Thanks, Chamatya. So together with the Youth Task Force and many other representatives from girl and youth-led groups and networks, we came together in May, at the end of May this year, for 3 strategic planning calls to co-create a girl and youth engagement plan. And so nearly 100 girls and young people came together, and adults as well, recognizing this as an intergenerational or multi-generational opportunity. So we came together to co-create a strategic plan to influence the generation equality process and ensure the meaningful engagement of these of girls and young people. And one of the things we did was come up with this shared vision. So what do we want to see change in 5 years? We want girls and youth in all their diversity not to be an afterthought when it comes to policies and programs and investments. We want more young people's voices in global advocacy and policy spaces like these. More resources, this is so important, more resources for girls and young people to participate in these forums. And we say global, but really that's from the community through national and regional levels as well. And we want young people to take up space and leadership. They are at the center of everything, and they have not just a right, but they, they're doing it already, and they should be given that legitimate space. And really key to, to call out the end of gender inequalities, in particular, the end of harmful gendered norms and practices with young people as part of the process. Examples we had here were child and early and forced marriage or forced genital mutilation, but there were many others that came up. And we came up with a plan. This looks very basic. We have a much more detailed plan that we can share with anyone who's interested. And, we were really looking to understand what do girls and young people want. So it came out loud and clear. We want support to engage in the process through network building, capacity building opportunities, mentorship and coaching. We also want to make the process more youth friendly. It's just not very, it's quite adult led right now, as most global advocacy processes are. So how can we do awareness raising and share information in local languages and in youth friendly language? Can we dismantle power structures that support an adult focused space? And can we be more trusting and have more respect for the girl and youth groups who are really at the forefront of this work? And I'll say it again, can we have more resources to make this all happen? And so with the Adolescent Girls Investment Plan group, we're taking some of this forward. We're figuring out what we take forward as a collective, what we share with UN Women and with other stakeholders who are involved to make sure that this is a shared responsibility. And what are we taking forward with you all and those who helped to design this plan? And this webinar itself is one of the first examples of this capacity building, but also around it links to awareness raising and network building. And so we're really excited to kick this off. And so I'll hand over to Eugenia now from Girls Not Brides to tell us a little bit more about the process.
Thank you, Georgia. Elvira, can I share my screen, please? So as you know, Generation Equality is the commemoration of the 25 years of the Beijing Platform of Action. And one of the outputs of this process are going to be the action coalitions.
Sorry, I think you can share now.
Yes. The action coalitions are platforms that are going to be implemented in a 5 years period. No, do you want to share it, Elvira?
You're the co-host now, but can you try, please?
I try.
If not, we can do.
Sorry. Sorry.
Now we can see your screen.
Perfect, thank you. And you can find more information on the website. So the action coalitions are a global, and it wants to be very different, innovative, multi-stakeholder partnership that will mobilize the will and the resources and the implementation of interventions from government, civil society, international organizations, and the private sector all together to catalyze collective action, spark global and local conversations among generations, drive increased public and private investment, and deliver concrete game-changing results across generations for girls and women. These are platforms that are meant to be a concrete outcome and that will have specific actions and targets to make sure that we are moving forward for gender equality. The action coalitions should address critical constraints to progress the accelerate positive change. And this is something very relevant because we have been seeing that not in all the different parts of the world, there is the same advancement through women's rights. And also that we have already assessed what is needed and what is needed to do it faster, no? So the idea is to build upon what works by leveraging evidence or existing initiatives and inspiring collective effort to achieve the scale that can be achieved, to pursue specific and concrete actions and drive results that are measurable over a 5-year time frame. And they are going to have a specific targets to assess that is happening. No? And they are going to be comprised from public, private, and civil society leaders to collectively drive systems level impact. I'm trying to put my screen so that you can see it full. So there was a process to define the themes that are now decided for the 6 action coalitions. And this process was a very comprehensive one. They did an analysis of where the strongest problems are, but also where the strongest opportunities to advance on those progress are. So the ones that have been decided collectively with civil society organizations that are part of the governance structure, the government of France, the government of Mexico, and UN Women are gender-based violence, economic justice and rights, bodily autonomy and sexual and reproductive health and rights, feminist action for climate justice, technology and innovation for gender equality, and feminist movements and leadership. So these 6 action coalitions were also having some content when decided. No? So there are some narratives or what is the aim to address in each of them, but the leading members are going to be developing the blueprints with the content and the problem statement of these each themes. So they will be selecting 2 to 3 priority actions to accelerate progress in these 5 years. And one of those actions are recommended to be focused especially on adolescent girls because of what Georgia just shared, and because we are all very committed to ensure that girls are at the center of all the interventions. So the idea is that they will have a specific know-how of what they are addressing, how they are going to drive impact, how they are going to be supported, and where to focus. So as I said, these are supposed, or these are meant to be most multi-stakeholders platforms. So the leaders of each action coalitions are comprised by youth-led organizations, including adolescent girl-led organizations, member states from the Global South and the North, women organizations, movements, and civil society actors to make sure that the feminist movement is at the center of what we're doing. Private sector entities, including philanthropic organizations, and UN agencies and other international or regional organizations that are going to be accompanying the rest of the stakeholders. No? And the leaders of the action coalitions were already announced on July 1st, and we do have the structures according to those different stakeholders. You can see the civil society organizations in the right, and there are still some leaders that are going to be nominated later. This call for application has been going for I think it's like 4 months at least, and there are some things that are still being adjusted. But the idea is that we already have these groups that are starting to work in mini workshops to make sure that they deliver the content that they need to decide. No? So there is a lot of information. I'm sorry, and the PowerPoint is not very clear, But this is just to give you a general idea of the gaps that are still there and how the organizations are already named. No? And one of the main challenges has been to make sure that we do have youth-led organizations in the call. There were some that applied in the process, but there were very few, and that's why the governance structure, the governments and the UN decided to do this second call for applications that my colleague Elvira is going to, no, Rachel is going to share, no? No, Elvira, sorry.
Mhm.
So Elvira, I pass the floor to you.
Thank you, Eugenia. Hello, everyone. Well, this is Elvira Pablo. I'm part of the Youth Task Force, and I'm also the Policy and Member Engagement Officer for Girls Not Brides for Latin America and the Caribbean. So, well, as you know, there was a first call for youth, for civil society organizations to apply to become leaders of the action coalitions. So after the process we have seen, and there has been a lot of advocacy efforts from the Youth Task Force, and also the CSAG, and also other civil society organizations. So we have a new call exclusively for youth-led organizations, so they can apply to become leaders of the action coalitions. So I'm gonna explain that call. Just give me one moment to start. Well, the first thing is that this call has a short timeline. The deadline is the 19th of July. So, and the way, this is exclusively for youth-led organizations. So all, for example, the youth serving or youth focused cannot apply. So that's an important criteria for this thing. And all, for example, there are some organizations that are youth-led and that previously applied for in the first call. So in this case, it's necessary that they apply again, and you can do that using the same letter that you have used before, or you can adapt or modify or write a new letter to reapply to become a leader. Eugenia has also explained about the action coalitions. There are 6 teams of the action coalitions. The first one is the gender-based violence. The second is economic justice and rights. The third one is bodily autonomy and sexual and reproductive health and rights. Number 4 is feminist action for climate justice. Number 5 is technology and innovation for gender equality. And number 6 is feminist movements and leadership. So you can apply to any of them, even if you want to apply to 2 or more, you can do that, but you need to submit one letter of intent for each action coalition that you want to apply to. And that's something important. All the action coalitions should have at least one youth-led organization as a leader. But if it's possible, the idea is to have 2 youth-led organizations as leaders of each action coalitions. So you can apply to all of them. As you know, the action coalitions has some already selected leaders. For example, some governments from this global north and global south. And there are also women's organizations and movements. There is the private sector, including philanthropic organizations, and also international UN agencies or international organizations. So now this call, as I have said, is totally focused on youth-led organizations, and that the call will close very soon. So it's important to try to apply as soon as possible. As I have said, the youth-led organizations should be directed by youth people themselves. Also, the adolescents can apply if they want to. It's important to also explain that the organization doesn't need to be officially registered in their countries. But it's important that the applications come from organizations, networks, or alliance, because individuals cannot apply. Also, for example, if you are many youth organizations that want to form a coalition to apply together, you can do that. But just when you submit your letter of intent, you need to state clearly which organization will act as the main point of contact. So that's also something important. Another important point is what is required for the leaders of action coalitions. So the first thing is an evidence of the commitment to the team of action coalition. The second is a groundbreaking 5-year commitment relevant to the action coalition that you are applying to. And also the active engagement in the design of the action coalition blueprints, alongside also you will be part of the annual tracking reports and regular reports, and also the action coalition leaders will be encouraged to participate in the annual event at the UN General Assembly. Also, the demonstration that the youth lead organization will use their voice and network to engage others and to be part of the mobilization of this youth action coalition. It's also important to explain that there is not a financial contribution expected from the youth leaders, from the leaders of the action coalitions. But at the moment, there is also no finance support guaranteed, so that's something important. I'm just gonna start sharing my screen now. Well, how do you apply? So now in the screen you can see that the letter of intent should be sent to this email address, actioncoalitions@youngwomen.org by the 19th of July. The letters should be no more than 2 pages long and should outline the history of the organization, its commitment to the team of the action coalition, an explanation of the way in which the organization is youth-led. That's important to explain in the letter. The 5-year commitment that you can do to advance the work of the Action Coalition, and an explanation of the way in which the organization will support the work of the Action Coalition you are applying to. As I have said, if you want to apply to more than one Action Coalition, remember to write one specific letter for each Action Coalition you are applying to. Also, you can see the full details in the call for applications that is available on the UN website. Also, these are some elements of the letter of intent that's not necessary. They don't have necessarily to follow these steps, but these are some elements important. And the first one, the introductory paragraph, where you explain to which Action Coalition are applying to lead. Then another paragraph explaining the history and the work of your organization and the commitment to the team of the Action Coalition. Also, you can include the explanation of the commitment of your organization to this issue in general, and also a short explanation on how this organization is youth-led and how this operates. Also, remember a paragraph explaining the groundbreaking 5-year commitment. Another one explaining how would you support the Action Coalition during the time as a leader. As you know, this time frame is 5 years. You're going to be leaders during 5 years of the implementation of the Action Coalition. So, and you can also include some examples. For example, if your organization will mobilize your membership, or if you will bring your knowledge and expertise of the team of that Action Coalitions, or other ideas that you have. Also, you can reiterate that your organization is interested in being a leader, and explaining why would you be a strong leader of that Action Coalition. And the letter should be signed by an individual with decision-making authority within your organization. Or as I have said before, if you are a coalition of organizations, then you need to state which organization will be the main point of contact. You can also include in the letter any presence of your organization in the internet, for example, your website, Facebook page, Twitter handle. And if your organization has a letterhead or logo, you can use that. And also remember that this is not a funding opportunity, so the letter should not ask for funding. That are just some very quick points on what are the things needed for to apply. But also, if you have questions, we are happy to answer. Right now, I just remember, for example, one of the frequent questions that we have been receiving is that what is the age limit? So the maximum age to apply is 35, but we are trying to encourage the adolescent lead organizations and the more youth organizations to apply. So 35 is only the maximum, but if you are younger, it's better, and it's important that you apply, and you can also speak by yourselves and be part of these action coalitions, because as you know, they will mobilize and they will have actions to make sure that we are advancing to the gender equality for all, and no leaving no one behind. So right after this presentation, please, if you have any questions, you can write them in the chat box or in the comments section on the YouTube, and I can answer the questions that you may have.
Elvira, this is Georgia. There's one question from Wendy in the chat box. So about the 5-year commitment plan, is it about the plans of the organization to help achieve the objectives?
Well, the 5-year commitment plan is about how your organization is going to contribute to the Action Coalition topic. It's not necessarily the whole plan of your organization, but how your organization will work to contribute to that Action Coalition. Any other questions or comments? Okay, I have seen one. It says, if I don't want to be a leader, but I still would like to be involved with, how could I do that? So all people and all youth are very welcome to be part of this process. So if you don't want to be a leader, you can also be part of this process, because there is going to be also big mobilizations of civil society to support this work. So there are at least five ways how youth can be involved. One is being part of the leadership structure of Action Coalitions. So that's why this call is open, for example. The second one is being part of the membership structure of the Action Coalitions. The other part is that youth can also provide feedback and views on the Action Coalition blueprints. These blueprints will be designed by with the participation of the leaders. So this process will start once also the youth-led organization is selected. Also, youth can, as I have said, you can participate in global mobilization around the Action Coalitions using online platforms, giving their opinions, organizing webinars, doing this work with our peers, and also with our work to accomplish these objectives of the Action Coalitions and gender equality. We can participate, and also, well, of course, supporting and monitoring the results of the Action Coalition blueprints. As we know, this is going to last 5 years. So if we don't want to be a leader, we can still participate, giving our feedback, organizing activities, and monitoring, even for example, our governments, that they are also working to advance these gender equality objectives. Other question that I am seeing is, if can more than one youth organization partner as a network and apply to lead an Action Coalition? Sorry, Nihal, could you please clarify? Do you mean if one organization?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, go ahead, Eugenia.
Go. that they can partner together, like a network of different organizations.
Yes, yes. Well, there can apply organizations, networks, or also coalitions. So, for example, also some different youth organizations can conform a coalition to apply. They can do that. Wendy is saying if we consider how long the organization has been operational, we know that many youth organizations can be new, and so that's not a criteria to, for example, if our organization is very new, that's not a criteria to exclude them. And that's not a disadvantage. You can still apply, and the important is the commitment that you can do and the experience that you have, and also the diverse of the voices. For example, if there is a adolescents-led organization, maybe it's recently funded, or a youth-led organization is not, maybe it's not 30 years or 40 years, but that's totally okay. Also remember that this is not exclusive for only this big or this global organization, also grassroots levels organizations, local organizations, national organizations can apply. So organizations from all the levels can apply. The only one required, most important requirement on this time is that they are youth-led organization. Well, there is a question saying how much work is it if is the youth-led organization is able to do it. Well, I have some points on that. Just give me 1 second to find it. Well, the responsibility, or the most, it's that we will need time, because there's going to be a year, at least the first year is going to be a very intensive investment of time, because you are going to be working in the Action Coalition blueprints, in the all the work to mobilize to start this process. As you know, this was the year of the Beijing Plus 25 commemoration, and many of the work has been moved to the next year because of the pandemic. And so, for example, the first year is going to be very intensive work. Also, there will be consultations, so the leaders of the action coalitions will have an influence on what the action coalitions will be, what the memberships looks like, and what the governance looks like, and that's also important. And also, at least there will be at least 2 workshops a month until the forum. So there is going to be it's going to be necessary to be committed to being part of that, and also a multi-stakeholder global process. So it's going to be an intense work, especially the first year, and then during the rest of the years, remember, you will be presenting annual reports and also regular reports, and you will be encouraged to participate, for example, in the UN General Assembly meeting. It says, if I am under 18, if they can still apply? Yes, you can apply. Adolescents can also apply to the leadership of the action coalitions. That's open to adolescents and youth. Any other questions? And let me see if in YouTube we have any questions. I don't see them. Well, there is one where we are having, well, there have been some office hours where Rachel Jacobson and Senia have been answering questions. So, for example, one of the frequent questions has been, what is a groundbreaking commitment? No? So, well, a quick some points on that is like a groundbreaking commitment is, for example, an opportunity to highlight in that part, you can highlight your deep thinking on and expertise on the Action Coalition team. Also, you can include, for example, because in this moment, the review committee recognized that commitments look different depending on the size and scope of the organizations. So we understand that, for example, a large international NGO will have a different type of commitment than a grassroots organization, but each commitment will be valued and all of them are important. So as I have said, you can apply, and it's important also that these grassroots level organizations apply, because also their experience, their expertise are very important for this process. And some examples of groundbreaking commitments are, for example, bringing new voices into the conversation, pioneering a new approach to organizing, mobilizing youth to this action coalition. So it's very open. Other frequent question is the number of leaders. And as I have said, is a maximum of 2 youth-led organizations and a minimum of 1 youth-led organization for each action coalition. And all of them are open to apply to. Well, there are also some questions, for example, about the benefits of the organizations. So for example, well, they will interact with a wide variety of stakeholders, including governments, philanthropic organizations, UN agencies, and the private sector, and of course, the civil society organizations. Well, the organizations that are leaders, they will have a seat at the decision-making table and shaping the work of the action coalitions from the very beginning. So that's important. Also the visibility. As I have said, at this point in time, there is no guarantee of financial support to the leaders. But also, for example, a benefit could be also the experience and the unique opportunity to be part of this. Well, remember that it's exclusively for organizations to apply. There are no opportunities for individuals to apply to become leaders of the action coalitions. Individuals can participate, mobilizing and supporting and monitoring, but they cannot be leaders as individuals. And do you have any other questions or comments? Sarah is saying how can she participate in the coalition without being a leader organization. So as I have said, there will be a membership for the action coalitions that's still being developed, how that will be. But also when the action coalition blueprints are decided, the youth organizations and youth advocates can give their feedback. Also, they can participate to the consultations and also monitoring and the implementation of the action coalition blueprints and mobilizing youth and organizations around the action coalition team and around all the generation equality activities and organizing online activities. And well, any other ideas that you have are very welcome. I'm not sure if I'm missing any question. Well, I'm not sure, colleagues, do you see any other question that I have not addressed, or do you have any questions or comments that I should address?
Yes, hi Elvira. So I was just wondering about the requirement of registration. Does the organization need to be registered in a country to apply? Or can it be like a network or a coalition that has some grassroots work and has some presence on the internet and has a website, but not necessarily registered in a country? Can they still apply?
Yes, they can apply. If you don't have a formal registration, that's not a requirement. So the organization can still apply, because in the letter they will explain how the organization works and what are they doing, and they can provide, for example, this evidence of their work, for example, their websites, their social media accounts. So no, that's not a requirement. If you are registered, it's okay, but if you are not, it's not a barrier to apply.
Elvira, we had a question from YouTube. I've put in the chat box. Do you have to be from a certain country or from a certain region to donate, or just to take part in the activities that we're doing?
No, that's open for all people around the world. All people can apply from the global north, from the global south, from all the levels of organizations, and everyone can, just remember, for in this case, is for youth-led organizations to become leaders. The call is exclusively for them. But it's not restricted to one country or one area. It's open for all the world. And any other questions? Maybe I should show again the email address to send the letter.
Maybe Alvira, can you elaborate on the funding issue? So it's not, so they're not supposed to ask for funding from Generation Equality when they apply, but should they have like funding available to support in their participation to Generation Equality, or can they apply for funding, or would there be any opportunities for youth-led organizations to apply for funding to support them to do their Generation Equality engagement and activities?
Well, at least until now, they have said that there is not a guarantee that there will be funds available. So there is not a finance commitment expected from the youth organization, but also, unfortunately, there is no funding at this time. There is no funding available, so there is no funding guaranteed to make sure that they will have this support for their work. So maybe, and that's something important to flag and to try to advocate for, but until now, that's not something that is being guaranteed.
Can I jump in? So there is no commitment to provide funding for the youth-led organizations. But the action coalitions are platforms where philanthropy, private sector, and governments are going to be participating. So the idea is not that the youth-led organizations are going to be putting support, economical support for the development of the activities. It's primarily the work that they are going to be doing to engage, to assess, and to engage other youth-led organizations. So there is going to be funding available for the Action Coalition as a whole to implement what they decide in the blueprint.
Thank you, Eugenia. Any other questions or comments?
There is one about how about facilitating activities to undertake the work of the Action Coalition?
Well, yes, it's expected that all youth advocates organizations can contribute to these action coalitions, and they can organize also activities and be part of this implementation of the action coalitions. That's expected, and for that for that thing, it's not necessary to be a leader. So all civil society can be part of these activities to implement the action coalitions, and also there will be an opportunity to give feedback and when they are being designed.
Alvira, I have another question. Maybe it's too specific to the process, but it would be good to know, like, what could be the expected interaction between the Youth Task Force and the youth-led organizations? Does the Youth Task Force has any role to support youth-led organizations when they take on the role? Will there be expected some communication and collaboration between them to ensure the youth agenda is visible in the process?
Yes. In the Youth Task Force, for example, also we are planning to expand a little bit more, to have some more members, because we have seen that, for example, we have some gaps, so we will expand the Youth Task Force very soon. And also we will be connected to these youth-led organizations who are part of the Action Coalition leadership to make sure that we are connected, and also we are trying to activate our connections with other youth-led organizations, with other youth activists, to make sure that we are in touch and that we are including the agenda from all these different youth constituencies. And also one good news is that soon we will be also part of formally of the structure of the working groups that are taking this work going on. So we will be part of this as the youth task force. In the previous process, some colleagues from the youth task force were part of the peer review for the applications to the action coalitions. So maybe it's important maybe also to say that these new applications also there will be a peer review from civil society and from youth organizations when the process is being moving forward. So once the applications has been received, there will be reviewed. Maybe the process of the review will take 2 or 3 weeks, depending on the total number of applications. The peer review will include people from young people and civil society who have expertise on each action coalition topic area. But they will make sure also that there is no conflict of interest. So the persons who are part of the peer review, they should not have applied to the action coalitions, for example. And after the peer review process, the core group will review the recommendations, and we expect that this process also will take from 1 to 3 weeks, depending also on the volume of applications, to know who are the new youth leaders of the action coalitions. But yes, the youth task force definitely will be part of this, and we are trying to find many ways to keep in touch with the youth around the world, to make sure that we are also including all their participations. And previously we had regional consultations. We hope that soon we will having this information available of the results of that regional consultations. And also we're planning how to move forward and to engage with more youth.
I don't think there are any more questions coming. There aren't any more questions coming through on YouTube anyway.
Okay, thank you. So I don't know if your colleagues have any other comments or questions.
And Elvira, maybe you can remind how they could connect with the youth task force as well on social media and so on.
Sorry?
I mean, if there's somebody who wants to connect with the youth task force, because we will be having initiatives in future, and, they could connect via our social media platforms.
Yes. Well, as Chamati have said, we have our social media account. I can share the screen to show them the Facebook and Twitter handle, and also in that social media we also share our activities on our new calls. For example, this call for applications, we have shared them in our social media. So if you would like to connect with us, and also we are working to have other ways of communication with youth. So in the screen now you can see our social media, and you can follow us, and also you can send a message or connect with us through that platforms.
And we will be posting all new opportunities that might come in future also in our webinars. We are on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Yes, thank you, Chamati. Yes, we also have an Instagram account. It's the same user, and in that space you can see the future opportunities that will come soon. Do you have any other comments or questions about the new call?
Just to say,
yes,
put in for those who are on the Zoom call, you will have, you know, we already have your contact details, and you will have indicated how you want to stay involved. Some of the practical ways is through the Beijing Youth Task Force, through we will be setting up kind of working groups to mirror elements of the process, and more calls like this, we hope. Increasingly youth-led calls as well, and we have some capacity building activities happening as well. So for anyone who is watching on YouTube, I've put links to a short survey in the comments box, and if you complete that, it will let us know if and how you want to stay involved. And then we can be in touch with next steps.
Thank you, Georgia. And so that's important, because we're planning to continue doing this kind of activities and other more activities in the coming weeks and months. So it will be good if you would like to continue connected with us. If you have not done it, you can complete the survey. So I think from my side that's it. I hope we have addressed all the questions you may have. But also in all these details are in the call for application, so you can also see the full information there. I will post the website where you can see that now, and from my side, that I think that's it. So if someone else want to jump in, it's okay. Thank you.
I think that might be it. So I think we can probably wrap up. I know we put in an hour and a half, but I think we knew that it would probably be a little bit less time. So I want to thank everyone for joining. I saw that we had between sort of up to 10 people watching on YouTube, which is fantastic, and more people have contacted us to say they would like to watch the recording, which will stay up on YouTube on the Girls Not Brides channel. And thank you to everyone who joined us on Zoom and for all your helpful questions, and to Elvira and Chamathea for joining us from the Beijing Youth Task Force to share that fantastic update, and Eugenia and for hosting us here and presenting about the process overall. Really appreciate it and excited to continue to collaborate with you all.
Thank you very much. And yes, please let us know if there's anything else that we can provide information with. Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you. I'll close off the call now.